All right, here we go. Participants are coming in. All right, so it is 10:50 in the morning. Welcome to the fourth and final leg of the Health Science Medical Technology Pathways. This is the sector HSMT, where you learn everything from sports medicine, proper lifting techniques, patient care, biotechnology, scientific innovation, mental and behavioral health. That's a big one too. Um, as well as public and community health. So these are all very valid, very important fields for you to consider. The first webinar series we had the previous week, you had a chance to meet Dr. Haynes and Miss Alpuerto, and they're both here today to answer your questions along with Peter from Los Angeles City College. He is here as he was yesterday. He is here to answer your questions regarding the next stage after high school. And then Dr. Kian Kani, couldn't be here today. So coming from the Ellison Institute of Technology, we have, excuse me, we have Bianca Lacson. Okay, and then last but definitely not least, the licensed vocational nurse, Raquel Ochoa. And if you remember the important thing, she drives an electric car. So that's important to remember. Not going to talk about her salary though. All right. So without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and start off the meeting here. If you've just come in, you see on your screen, these are all the pathways in this HSMT sector throughout Los Angeles Unified School District. So whether you're in the west, east, or south, I don't think we have anybody here today from the north, but this also includes pathways in Region North as well. So these are all the HSMT pathways that are available. What I'm going to now do is open it up to our panelists. They're going to give you up to about 2 minutes of a brief bio. So you get a chance to hear what they have to say about themselves. It might be a refresher, might be some new information. We'll see. And then while they're talking, please listen carefully and start preparing your questions because the question is open in the Q&A field. So I'll be moderating that as much as possible. And if I don't get to a certain question, one of the panelists might answer it in the field. So we'll start off with Ms. Alpuerto. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arlene Alpuerto, and I'm the sports medicine teacher at Eagle Rock High School. Prior to teaching, I actually came from private sector. I was a gym owner for over 20 years, worked as a personal trainer, worked for large volume gyms like UFC, 24-Hour Fitness when I first started. And then when I decided to close my facility, I became a teacher by chance. And then I have an undergrad in sport management, master's in exercise science, and now I'm working on a PhD for my health and human performance. And the reason I got into this industry, in the fitness and health industry, strength and conditioning, is because I was an athlete growing up, and I felt like I needed to follow my passion, and that's kind of what drew me in the industry. And ever since then, it's never felt like a job because I've always kind of applied what I love doing to my work. So I'm still involved in the industry. I work with, I still reach out to people to kind of help my program develop. My program is mostly concentrated on strength and conditioning, although we do a lot of rehab science as well, modalities. I collaborate with Peter at LACC and the Dodgers and the Lakers. And so my job is to kind of expose our students to collegiate as well as pro sports. And that's kind of where my focus is with my program. I'm starting in May. We're starting a paid internship program that the district actually, which is great. So we have 8 interns, and we are going to start in May where we're going to bring in athletes, our school athletes, and then also some teachers who are volunteering to be our test subjects. So our students get hands-on experience before they actually go out into the industry. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bianca Lacson. I'm with the Ellison Institute of Technology. I'm subbing for Dr. Kani today. So our background is very different, although we're the two people that make up our education and outreach team. So before coming to the Institute, I worked at the University of California in LA and in Irvine, working in different student service capacities. So as an academic advisor, coordinating programs for first-year students to make sure that they're adjusting to life in college. That transition from high school to your first year in college can be very scary. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of people that want to help students in that experience. At the Ellison Institute, I still work with our students, but it's a much smaller population. So we go to different middle schools and high schools in the LA area to talk to them about science, particularly cancer biology. And we have field trips where students can come see our institute, where we have research labs, and we have a clinic where we see cancer patients. So the reason why I decided to join the Ellison Institute is because I really value an organization that has a mission, right? So when you're looking for jobs somewhere farther down the line, really reflect on what is the mission of this organization that I'm joining? Does it really match what I want to do? Does it allow me to solve problems that will help my community, the globe, right? And that's something that we address as we try to look for a cure for cancer, right? I also wanted to highlight that even though I'm not a scientist, I'm not a physician, I'm not a nurse, there is room for different kinds of expertise in STEM fields. So somebody who's interested in psychology and education, like myself, can contribute my talents and my passions in a STEM field, because it's going to really take all of us and all of these different backgrounds to be able to solve these big problems in healthcare and medicine. So I'm really excited to join you all today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lateira Haynes. I am a teacher at King Drew Magnet High School for Medicine and Science, and I am a teacher of physics, but also the biotechnology program here at King Drew. A little bit about myself. When I was a really little girl, I loved watching surgeries on TV, and my mom thought it was really, really weird, but I thought it was super cool. I thought like all the things that were inside the body that made it work was really cool. And so growing up for the longest, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. But then I got experience in a laboratory and I realized what I really liked is like I wanted to know how everything worked together and what are the issues that makes things stop working. And so I fell in love with research science regarding the body. So I started doing internships all the time. I did internships from my 8th grade year all the way up to my senior year of college, and I was always in a lab. And from there, I got my bachelor's in biology, and then I decided I wanted to become a research scientist. So I got my PhD in biomedical sciences, and I was a research scientist for a few years, but then I realized there were very few people like me from backgrounds like mine. Like my parents didn't go to college. No one in my family worked in science or medicine. And I wanted more people like myself, more students like you, to just realize that we can actually do research that like helps our communities. I know doctors and nurses are amazing and we need them, but we also need the researchers to come up with those treatments. And so I love that. And I've been teaching my students for the past 9 years how to think like a researcher, how to see these problems in medicine that we have no solutions for, and how do we come up with solutions for that? And then how do we use these really high-tech skills so that when you go to a place like Ellison, you can use their materials and it can just be super impressed that you know how to do it. And so I love science. I specifically love the body and the immune system and just really want to come up with ways to make people's lives better. So if you have questions about that, let me know.
Hello, my name is Peter Parsiletti. I am a professor of kinesiology here at Los Angeles City College, and happy to be here and kind of share a little bit about my background. I teach exercise science. So similar to Arlene, we just teach it at a slightly different level, same concepts, but slightly just at the college level. And so what I do here in particular is I oversee a lot of our career technical education programs in kinesiology. So our personal trainer program, what we call our fitness specialist program, that's preparing students to become working professionals in fitness and exercise, as well as building other programs. Including, we also have our physical therapy aid program, a pre-sports medicine program that's coming online, multiple extra degrees, as well as other certificate programs that are associated with human movement, study of human movement, and making sure that how do we incorporate exercise safely, and making sure that we're doing things correctly and not injuring people, right? And using science to direct how we actually implement exercise. And that's the exciting thing that I think I bring to our student population here, is leveraging the research, just leveraging research and saying, well, how are we going to make these people do things appropriately so that they can benefit as optimally as possible from exercise. So the reason I got into this work is a little bit of a long roundabout story. When I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So type 1 is only about 10% of the diabetic population in the United States, whereas about 90% or so is going to be type 2. So many of you might have heard someone with type 2 diabetes. Type 1, you need to take insulin all the time. So as a young person, I learned pretty early on that if I exercise a little bit more consistently, my blood sugar levels and my control of diabetes got better. And so I made a commitment to exercising and participating in sports. And I played Division I athletics in college. I went to the University of Vermont. I didn't study exercise, though. I actually studied sociology. And I was very fascinated with why people do and choose the things that they choose as groups. This catapulted me into wanting to understand and work with populations that maybe were underserved. So some of the first jobs I had were working with at-risk young people, probation and foster youth who needed some emancipation support work. Sorry, my lights just went off. Be right back. There we go. If I don't move, my lights go off. And then, so with that, I actually did that for about 10 years here in Los Angeles. And then I kind of did a shift because I'd always been interested in fitness. I got certified and I ended up working kind of like Arlene. I was working in the fitness industry and I started working at Equinox. And then I did that for 5 years. And then I moved into corporate wellness. So we were at companies, biotechnology companies, financial companies, big companies that actually wanted wellness programs that incorporated exercise and fitness center management in their campuses. So like Paramount Studios, Fox Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, Universal Studios, all of those have wellness facilities where we would come in and manage that program for them. And then I decided at that point, I wanted to get my master's degree in exercise science and exercise science and health promotion with an emphasis in rehabilitation. And so then I was able to apply and I started teaching at a private personal training vocational school where we're teaching people how to become trainers, but it was a little more expensive. And I said, I want to do this at the community college level because we can bring some of this really cool information that maybe they're not getting to this level. And I was able to kind of work as a part-timer. And then eventually I became a full-timer. And so now I'm a full-time faculty member here at the college. And I've been here for about 10 years and pretty excited, very passionate. To Arlene's earlier point, it doesn't feel like a job. Like every once in a while it does, but generally I love what I do. I get to communicate and entertain students. I always love the entertainment portion to keep your attention. And hopefully this isn't too boring for you all out there, but that's a little bit about me. And I'm really blessed to be able to do the work that I do and I'm very appreciative of your time. So thank you for listening. Hope you got some good questions.
All right, thank you, Peter. So yeah, we do have a question here starting off. What specific colleges and pathways are recommended specifically for nursing programs? And I think we'll start off with the high school level and then moving on to the college level, because not only do we have a licensed vocational nurse on site here, Raquel, you want to uncover the big secret that we didn't uncover the previous day?
Hi, everybody.
What do you do? Huh?
Good morning. Nice to meet everyone, see everyone. So I am a licensed vocational nurse. I have been in the medical field for 20 plus years. I started as a medical assistant, moved on to phlebotomy, worked in doctor's offices with allergy and asthma specialties. I am now currently a hospice nurse in the evening, and I teach during the day patient care at Chatsworth High School. So nice.
That's very cool. So go ahead.
Sorry. So to answer the question about the nursing program,
Oh, she's breaking up. I'll help her answer this one. So,
really depends on what to take. I was not a great student, so I did vocational training first.
all right. So basically, Miss Ochoa teaches patient care with a focus on hospice, and so that's an interesting direction in terms of high school with patient care. But she's not only just teaching it; she's still in the field after school. So when you guys go home and you play your games or do whatever you do, yeah, she's going to actual work and she's keeping those skills current. So I'm going to let Peter talk about what's available at LA City College for those that are looking to do nursing beyond high school.
Yeah, so we have a full nursing program. It's a 2-year program for, I think, nurse practitioner, and correct me if I'm incorrect, if anyone can correct me. But we definitely have medical science programs, including nursing, and the nursing program is pretty coveted. It tends to be pretty full because you've got to meet certain criteria, and it's a busy program. So you can, after you finish high school, you can come right to LACC and work towards earning your associate's degree in nursing and start working.
Okay, great. And so I guess we're going to keep going on the, don't forget to ask the science questions and the biotechnology and the research and things like that. We got the speakers here, so by all means, let's utilize them. So what are the basic practices and trainings for students interested specifically in sports medicine? Arlene, you want to tackle that one? Oh, your volume's not coming in.
Sorry, can you repeat
There
that?
you go. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at the Q&A here. It's saying, what are the basic practices / trainings for students interested specifically in sports medicine?
Well, the way my program works is a 2-year program, 11th and 12th grade, and the concentrator class, which is the 11th grade class, they're introduced to anatomy, physiology, kind of the fundamentals, a little bit of medical terminology as well. So it's a lecture, and then the hands-on, they also start learning exercises, techniques, similar to what Peter does with his class. We really have to emphasize the science behind the movement, and kind of put the gym science on the side burner, and really change the focus of exercise. So a lot of my students that take my program go on to physical or interested in physical therapy, nursing. Some go on to biotech as well. I have one student that wants to go into bioengineering, which is really interesting. So yeah, they get a basic knowledge, fundamental of all of that. And then the second year capstone, they actually train to, or the whole year curriculum, they currently we're doing National Academy of Sports Medicine, so they get certified as their personal trainer, and they get as well as basic life support. So this year our seniors were certified in basic life support. We're doing the certified personal training certification in May. And then next year, the goal is to change it to the National Strength and Conditioning Association, which aligns with our internship that we're creating. And also to align with, a lot of it had to do with Peter's program. So the goal is to kind of segue our students into his program. So I feel like that kind of really sets them up for success when they're going into the industry.
Yeah, and Michael, if I could I'll just jump in here
Yeah,
too. So
sure, go ahead.
when you get to our level now, I think maybe the other part of that question is, to be in sports medicine, you're going to have to go on to most likely a graduate school program. So you're going to need to do 2 years, whether you do it at the community college and then another 2 years at Cal State LA or Cal State Northridge, et cetera. You've got to get a bachelor's degree. and then you have to apply to graduate school. So depending on what you want to do, whether it's athletic training, which requires a master's degree, physical therapy, that's part of a sports medicine team, that's going to be a doctorate degree. Chiropractic can sometimes be part of a sports med team, that's a doctorate degree. A registered dietitian, that can be part of a sports med team, that's going to be a master's degree. And the strength and conditioning coach of part of a sports med team, generally depending on the level, will probably have a master's degree, and a very specific credential from the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And so there's a bunch of steps. And right now, probably in your mind, you're like, that's a lot. I don't even understand all that. But the reality is, what you want to do is you want to kind of keep tracking forward, tackling each thing as it comes to you. So when you get into 8th grade, when you get into high school, you're probably going to want to try and see if you can take some science classes, right? You want to take those classes and really do well in those, get good grades in those science classes, because that is going to be the foundational level of all the stuff that we're going to be talking about once you get into college or the upper junior, senior year. So that's the big thing that you can focus on now to prepare, is just do the best you can in your coursework and really try and learn the material as it's presented to you.
And I just want to add, sorry, I should have gone that route as well. That a lot of these requirements for these jobs that Peter mentioned also changes. So maybe by the time you guys get to your college years, the requirements might change. Like, for example, physical therapy at one point only required a bachelor's. Now they're requiring doctorates. So so that's why it's really important to emphasize, really, if you can find what you love and enter the field, it doesn't feel like work. And that's really kind of the greatest thing. That's great. So let me ask our biotech experts in research. So I have a question for you. What's on the cusp? I know there's been some recent changes with like Alzheimer's. I don't know about cancer or anything like that, but there's been some medicine that's come out recently that's supposed to slow the progression of Alzheimer's. I know this might be a big topic for some of the kids in the audience, especially if they have grandparents that are kind of going through this. I know my mother went through it before she passed 4 years ago, so it's something that's out there, and it's undeniable. It hits, and sometimes it hits hard. So either or both of you, Bianca or Dr. Haynes, if you have any information on that. Anything with genetics or anything that is going on with biotechnology in terms of that? Any research?
I don't have specific research on Alzheimer's, but some of the cutting edge technology that I've been sharing with my students, like for example, with genetics and being able to edit genetics and such, is with CRISPR and using that for gene therapy. And so my students just learned about gene therapy, and we are actually doing some genetic engineering in the classroom. And basically for the students who are on genetic engineering and genetic therapy, deals with being able to edit a person's genes, especially if this person already has a disease. And so there's lots of diseases similar, like Alzheimer's, that are not because you got a virus or you got bacteria that made you sick. Like there's some issues that happened in your DNA. And right now, we've usually been treating people with like medicine. And so we give people chemicals, and those chemicals are supposed to make you better. But the idea now is that if we are able to give people treatments that goes inside of their body, goes into their nucleus, and changes their DNA back to what is supposed to be normal, then they can be healthy without having so many side effects from those chemicals that we give them in medicine. And so that is a huge part of research for everything, not just Alzheimer's, from Alzheimer's, like cancer, diseases like Huntington's disease and sickle cell anemia, so many different diseases we're studying that way. And so it's really, really cool. And we need a lot of people to study it because it takes a lot of work.
And that was with the genetics, right? So that
Yes.
seems to be the big deal, is if you can fix the genetic
Mm-hmm.
disposition, the faults that are within it, that can help solve some of the problems. Okay.
Yes.
Bianca, do you have anything to add on any of the research in for any subject matter in the health field?
Yeah, I think, artificial intelligence and computer science and how it's going to be applied to medicine is a big frontier that we're exploring. So adding on to what Dr. Haynes has mentioned, right? If you're considering, editing somebody's genes, what can we learn about a person's genes, right? So if we sequence a person's genome, can we identify a specific mutation that would make them more susceptible to getting breast cancer, right? And even then, looking deeper into that, breast cancer is not the same for every person. There's different types of breast cancer. So if we can identify what those differences are, not with a human eye, but using algorithms, training, machine learning algorithms to be able to detect that for us, then that means that we can treat a patient specific to the cancer that they have, right? So that's what we call precision medicine, and it's the direction that medicine is going. And we're going to need to rely on you, right, as the next generation to be able to make these discoveries and, apply them and treat patients with the same care and, the same attention to detail that the technology will allow us to do.
Understood. Okay. Raquel, I have a question for you. This relates to nursing in the hospital field. I know COVID was a big deal. It still is, in a way, it's still a big deal, but it was definitely a big deal 3-4 years ago, for sure. And I had seen lots of news reports where I had never seen anything like it, where nurses were literally leaving the field. It was so traumatic that they're like, I can't handle this. This is way too much. What do you think that students can do, if anything, to mentally understand or prepare to understand what the field's really about if they want to go into nursing? What do you think would be the aha moment up front for them to know or understand?
I'm not sure that there's specifically an aha moment, if that
Okay.
makes sense, but you definitely have to have the passion for caring for people. And you need to remember that these people are not necessarily in the greatest shape. They don't feel the greatest. They don't want to be dealt with or moved, right? So I think the biggest thing, if you choose to do nursing or medicine anyway in patient care, is that you find a way to take all of that you pick up on your shift, all of that negative and stress and all of those things, and that you find a proper way to clear your body of that, whether that's exercise, whether it's however you practice self-care. But if you choose to go into medicine, self-care is something I cannot stress enough.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And I know there was a question earlier about salary and how much do you make and retirement and all this. If you guys are thinking retirement, you're looking at the wrong picture. Don't chase the money, chase the dream. I know it sounds like, oh, I got to make all this money. Look at houses are like almost $1 million. There's no way I can do it unless I'm making a bunch of money. You're not going to be happy. And somebody's saying, well, I never had that much money before. I want to see if it's going to make me happy or not. You do what you really enjoy to do. And if you do something well and it's in demand, trust me, the money's coming in. But you have to have the passion. You're going to see all the people up here who are speaking today. They all love this field. They're not doing it to pay bills. I can tell you that firsthand. Every one of them is doing what they do because this is something that they enjoy doing. So I'll open this up to all of you. I think this is a very valid question in terms of HSMT in that sector. What is your favorite subject? Whether you go back to your school days or currently now, what's your favorite subject? If you were to look at a particular subject, maybe let's have fun since these kids haven't been to high school yet. Look back to your high school days. What was your favorite subject back in high school? Doesn't even have to be medically related. And why was it?
That was a long time ago. Let's see.
I love geometry. That was probably one of I hated math, so which is unfortunate, but geometry made sense to me, right? I have a creative brain. So my creative brain wanted to kind of look at things and put things together, whereas my analytical brain was a little bit harder for me to kind of focus in on mathematics. You had to do it, right? Certainly through high school. I was very excited to learn once I got into college, though. I didn't have to take any other mathematics except for a course called abstract math, which is the math that you don't learn in high school. And it's all the weird math that you're like, that's really math. So that was actually kind of fun too. The other thing I'll say now, I'm in actually a graduate program now. I'm working on my doctorate in education, kinesiology education, with an emphasis in strength and conditioning. So one of the things that at this level, as we sort of mature and get into what we're doing and love, you get excited about kind of tiny little things. It's actually really funny. And the thing that I'm most excited about is how education and kinesiology, the effectiveness of online delivery, because we all did go through COVID and we saw like all sorts of problems with COVID learning, right? But in our fitness space, people have been doing online education for a while, but no one's looked at how effective it is or isn't, because you have to have some practical skills. So that's an area that I'm looking at now, and that's very exciting to me. It may not be exciting to you, but it is what it is.
Very cool. Very cool, Peter. I remember the show where it was, gee, I'm a tree, right? Never mind. Okay. Anybody else want to tackle that question?
Love to share. My favorite class in high school was actually child development. I remember carrying around a baby, and having to care for the child. That was definitely
Oh, you're breaking
a
up.
highlight of career.
Very cool. Very cool. Anybody else want to jump in? Going back to those high school days?
For high school, for me, actually, my favorite subject was physics, and it was just fascinating to understand how things work. So that was kind of it was more of a fascination. I don't remember if I did well in it. I just remember I was very fascinated with it. And then when I went on to college, it was exercise physiology and exercise science. It's anything that had to do with even biomechanics, just understanding movement. I guess that all ties into physics too.
Okay.
I'll go too. Well, of course, in high school, I loved biology, but like my other favorite class was stagecraft. And so we had a really nice theater program at my school, and stagecraft was like the class where you learned how to build sets, you learned how to work the lights, you learned how to work sound, and basically make theater magic. And like, I just love how things work behind the scenes. And I had so much fun building sets and working lights when we were having plays and working the sound and such. And it was like really cool to get to see the whole production come to life. And so that was like my other favorite class. It was really fun.
Very cool. So another question, and hopefully this is related to work, is if you think back at any point in time, I don't know about biggest regret, but what might have been a regret that if you can look back and say, you know what, I wish I had done it this way instead of that way. I wish I had taken this, or I wish I had gone in this direction. Any regrets that you have in regards to that journey? Oh, here we go. Okay, Raquel's up and running. Go for it.
Most definitely. I would tell you guys, because I am someone who didn't do well in high school and went vocational training and then later on continued my education. If I had it to do it again, I would have gone for the education initially.
Okay.
I'll answer as well. Like as I mentioned, I did like lots of internships in high school, and then but my senior year, in between my senior and college year, I told myself, I'm like, I'm not going to do an internship. I'm going to be a regular teenager and work at the mall. And it was so boring. It was so boring. And so I totally recommend, I know like you, like I want to make some money, but like you can make money doing paid internships and like getting to meet cool people and do all of these cool things. But like working at the mall or working at a fast food place was so boring. And so I wish I could get that summer back.
Yeah, I got to add on to that for sure. We're not going to show it here because probably the language involved, but if you get a chance, you watch Chris Rock's segment on a job versus a career. It's enlightening. Yeah, if I could turn back time, I would have definitely realized, you know what? I don't have to move out right away. I can stay at home a little bit. I can go and try different fields. I can do different things. I didn't have to take on 2 or 3 jobs to have my own place and be exciting and run myself ragged for those first years out of high school. But freedom isn't free, as they say. So anybody else want to jump in with regrets or anything like that?
I'll jump in.
Okay,
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Mine isn't actually a regret. Mine was just a longer path because when I was in high school, we didn't have things like career technical education where it was industry specific, where it guided you or gave you a taste of what the industry was. So we kind of had to figure it out on our own. So the CTE classes are great in that way. So I didn't have mentors. I didn't even know it existed. So I actually I was in the garment industry first. I did that for a very long time. I went to the Fashion Institute and I ran a production in my early 20s, and I was traveling to Mexico and Canada and San Francisco and dealing with garment. And then I realized there has to be it was high stress. I was working till 2 a.m. I was working for a company where it was high crime at the time. And I realized I have to do something that's where my passion lies. And then I ended up going to school, back to school for kinesiology while I was working. So that was tough, working full time and then going to school at night. And then once I realized, I discovered, okay, this is really where I need to be. And then I switched careers. Started off really low pay again because I was entry level, but you know what, if you believe in your skill, if you follow that passion, I moved up really quick and I ended up being co-owner of a gym 2 years in. So follow your passion is really the message.
Very good words. Absolutely. Bianca, Peter, anything to share?
I just wanted to share that when I was in middle school and high school, I mean, my favorite class was English, social sciences. I really gravitated towards that. But looking back now, I would say it was also because I had a voice in my head saying, "Oh, I'm not good at math. This is not something that I want to do. Like, okay, I can get a good grade, I can pass this." But I kept telling myself, this is not something that I want to pursue. If I'm sure there are some of you who hear that in your head, or maybe somebody has told you you're not good at this. But keeping that option open, right? Because if you're interested in this pathway, right? Being interested, being at least curious, if not passionate, right? Curious about sciences, about math. Keep that option open, because at this point in your life, you shouldn't be closing yourself off to an entire field or to all of these different opportunities. So instead of saying to yourself, "I'm not good at this," just think of it in a different way. Like, maybe I don't like it if it's presented in this way, but if I explore science in a different lens, if I look at math as a tool that I can use to understand the world better, then you're opening yourself up to a lot more opportunities.
I'll just jump in and say, one of the things that I would, there's two parts here. So what do I regret? I regret actually not doing a lot of internships myself. There's a lot of value in getting some professional experience out there while you're going through school. So I wish I did a little bit more. So listen to Dr. Haynes there, do as many internships as you can. It's super, super valuable, because even if you do something, and I think I said this last time, but if you do something and you don't like it, that's actually really important, because you now know what you don't want to do, and it will help direct you towards what you may be wanting to do, but you might have to do a little bit of discovery there. The other piece of this is I was someone who I liked doing all sorts of stuff, and I couldn't whittle it down into a career. I was like, well, how am I supposed to know what I want to do? I like to do a lot of things. So in high school, I did art, I did music, I was in the concert band, I was marching band, I played sports, I did wood shop, I had my own, I built furniture for teachers and made some money doing that. And I was always like, how am I going to whittle this down into one thing? Well, I went to college and I started to discover and take a bunch of classes, because I had a little bit more ability to take the classes that you want. I started trying different things and realized, well, the thing that's speaking to me right now is this understanding people. I was very curious. And it was until later that I sort of put the passion of, I wanted to help people. That was ultimately what I was looking to do. And so I think, just if you're someone who's not sure what you want to do, I just want to say it's okay. That's really okay right now. We may not know it. But going through high school, going through college is going to start to help you figure out exactly what you want to be doing and what is the thing that makes your heart sing inside, literally, like makes you feel good getting up every day and going and doing that thing. But it sometimes takes us some time, and I turned 50 this year. And, you know, I really got into education probably in my late 30s and 40s and realized that this is the passion. This is the place that I need to exist. So if you don't know what you want to do, it's okay. You're on a path. You're going to get there. And it doesn't always look the same for everyone. And I just want you to know that's totally normal.
Yeah, and I agree with Peter. You know, my passion, my drive in my 20s was and 30s was completely different than what I did in the 40s. So my goals were completely different. Did a pretty much a 180. Didn't see it anything like that coming. And so yeah, absolutely. You know, follow what feels right. Do that. Go through that process. But don't believe that you can't do it. Don't believe, oh, well, my family, they all work they all work digging ditches or whatever. If that's what you want to do, great. But if that's not what you want to do, if you want to study, then study. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, well, you're a family full of ditch diggers. You're not going to understand this stuff. That's not true. That's not true. And if you're really into the subjects, trust me, your grades will reflect that, especially if you have that passion for that. So I know Peter's got a few questions he can answer, typing in the answers there, but I'm going to ask one to the group here. Um, how long do you train before becoming a nurse doctor? Well, and I think there's a lot of differences. And I know Dr. Haynes, you talked about the difference between a PhD and an MD. You know, in your first in the first webinar series, you want to kind of rehash that a little bit and maybe kind of help them understand what the journey is like and what the time frame is. And then Raquel, you can jump in on the nurse stuff too. Dr. Haynes?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the difference between a PhD and an MD, and I didn't figure out that I wanted to switch until my junior year in college. But for an MD, so you go to college, you can actually major in anything if you want to become a medical doctor. But there's certain classes that you have to take to get into most med schools. And to get into medical school, there's a really hard test called the MCAT. I don't know if you've ever heard of the SATs before, but it's like it makes the SATs look like kindergarten work. So it's this really hard test called an MCAT. You study really hard for, you get a score for that, and you apply to medical schools. And if you get into medical school is around it'll take you about 4 years after you finish your bachelor's. So if you finish your bachelor degree in 4 years, then you have like 4 years of medical school. But medical school is very, very expensive. So I would say by the time y'all get into medical school, you might be paying at least like $1,000 for all 4 years together for medical school. Okay, so that's like the medicine route. But afterwards, you can go and you do like a residency and you do fellowships and you can specialize in what you want for medicine. Now, for a PhD, which would be a doctorate in science, similar route, like you go to do for your bachelor's degree for 4 years, and you're usually majoring in the science or the field that you want to go in. Then you do also take a test. You take a test called the GRE, and that GRE is very similar to the SAT, but it's harder. And you apply to these different schools for graduate school. And graduate school for science, if you want to do a science PhD, you will get paid to go to school. So I applied to like 6 schools and I went on 6 weekend interviews. They flew me out on airplanes to all these different cities for free. They gave me a hotel room and I stayed for the weekend. And after that like weekend interview, like they'll let you know if you're accepted or not, and they'll tell you how much money they would give you. So I went to UC San Diego and my tuition was free and I got paid $30,000 a year as a student. They paid me to go to school, and your PhD has a range of time. So it goes from around like 4 years to maybe like 6 to 6.5 years for your PhD. And it really depends on your work because you're doing research, you're not in class. So after your first year, you're hardly in class. You go into the lab every day and you're doing experiments with the people in your lab and you have a mentor. So after the first or like the second year, like the middle of the second year, I never went to class. I just went to work every day. And then at the very end, you write a very long paper called a dissertation. And you present that to a committee. And if they read it and they like your presentation, they say it's good enough, you get your degree and you have a doctorate then. So that's a little bit of a difference between the two. So medical school, only 4 years, but you pay a lot of money to become a doctor. But PhD, a little longer, and they pay you to become a PhD. Yeah.
Although I will add one thing, Dr. Haynes, something I learned when escorting one of our students to HOSA at the
Yes.
international thing in Nashville, that if you don't mind putting in some time with the Army, they'll send you to that
Yes,
MD
that is
school for
true.
free. You don't
They
have to pay a
will.
dime up front, but
They
you're
will.
gonna have to spend some time doing Uncle Sam's bidding. But yeah, you'll get that experience for free. Raquel, you got anything else to add on that with the nursing?
So the simplest answer that I can give you is as little as 12 months and as much as 6 years if you want to get an advanced degree as far as nursing is concerned. So you can do as little as vocational training in under a year, or you can go as long as 6 years to get your nurse practitioner and all of those other things.
And a lot of nurse practitioners, they double as doctors, right? Yeah. That's usually what Kaiser gives me when I go in and he says, I asked for a doctor. It's a nurse practitioner. It's good enough. Okay. All right. So last thing, I know we need to wrap things
Well,
up
health
here.
care is
If there's,
trying to
I was going to say, if there's one thing that you want these students to leave with, I think all five of you, what would that thought be in terms of something to leave them with the thought on the HSMT industry? So who wants to go first?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Yeah. So from a kinesiology, human movement perspective, kind of the health side of it all, right? The movement side of it all. It's kind of funny again, because my experience, I didn't necessarily know I wanted to get into this until a little bit later, but I think if you like playing sports, if you like being active, if you like understanding how the human body, how does health and emotional health and mental health and all that stuff play into it, and physical activity, just continue to play your sports, be involved, try different sports. One of the things we'll always tell you is you don't pick your sport picks you, right? What do I mean by that? You will self-select out of the things you're not good at, and you will stick with the things that you're better at. And that's how your sport picks you. So explore the world of physical activity that you have available to you right now, obviously in middle school, but certainly in high school. Try out for some teams, play some sports. Don't be intimidated by, I don't think I'm good enough, because we all have that in our brain. I'm not good enough. I'm not as athletic as them. It doesn't matter. Get out there and work and be committed to learning. You're going to be fine. I think that would be the biggest thing to kind of take away from this, at least from our perspective, because that can translate later into passion for maybe exercise. And then we can start to build on that when you get into, junior, senior year in high school. You can get into, and then certainly in college, we can start to really focus in on all that stuff. So if you really have a passion for that now, or start to explore that, then hey, we got something for you coming down in a few years from now. So enjoy. The other thing I was going to say, Kobe asked what sport I played, and I accidentally hit, I'm going to tell you live. I was going to type it in. I played lacrosse, the oldest game in North America. And it is one of the original games of North America. And so I played lacrosse in college.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Peter. All right. Anybody else? Last thoughts?
I'll just add on to what Peter said.
Yeah.
I second everything that he said, and just to kind of top that off, and just don't put so much pressure on yourself right now to decide, right? Because you're going to be different a year from now. You're going to be different, and then different again 3 years from now, and so on. I mean, I switched my career, so no pressure, no pressure.
Good advice. All right. Bianca, any thoughts, last thoughts, ideas for these middle school students?
Yeah, I think just staying curious is my best advice. I think I wish in middle school I had access to professionals like this who could give me insight into what their day-to-day is like, what they studied, And we're telling you a couple years for your master's and your doctorate, right? But like as everybody has said, stay curious, find something that sparks that interest in you. And when you see that, you'll know it. Keep following that, and hopefully it'll turn into something that's a lifelong investment. But also take advantage of like knowing these professionals, talking to your teachers about what their experiences are, because you can learn a lot just by learning more about another person's path to their career.
All right. Raquel? Doc? Dr. Haynes?
Yes, I'll share. Mine is very similar to what Arlene said as well. Like I mentioned before, I didn't really I changed what I wanted to do my junior year of college. And so just explore. Like if you like one field, like if you decide you like the body, just explore. Take as many classes as you can, do internships, just enjoy, and like don't put, like they said, don't put pressure on yourself to make that decision right away. You are still learning like about the field, but you're learning about yourself too. And so get into college, and then when you get there, explore, and then you can make those decisions.
Some great advice from some dedicated individuals. So I hope you students really appreciate this. You've gotten mentorship overload here. Some great advice from people in the industry. So if you're considering the health sciences, this is definitely the way to go. If it's something you want to try, you should absolutely try it. If it's not for you, you'll know and just move on and do something else. It's not the end of the world. Not everybody can handle the blood and the other stuff that may come out, or things like that, or bones sticking out of legs, Sometimes you don't know about it until you actually see it, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is not for me. So anyway, thank you for coming, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll probably have one more webinar series, so stay tuned. It'll probably be in a month or so. I know we're coming towards the end of the school year, but I hope you enjoyed this 4-part series today, and seriously consider one of the pathways. You had a chance to look at that screen and see what's out there. And when you make that step into high school, hopefully one of the schools here like King Drew or Eagle Rock, yeah, come talk to these teachers, come talk to Miss Alpuerto, come talk to Dr. Haynes. They can tell you. And if the high school you're going to doesn't have a medical program, you and your parents can talk to the principal, and surprise, you might see one pop up, so you never know. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming, and we'll be in touch soon. Take care. Thank you, panelists. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a great day,
Thank
Michael.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye now.